We've covered many stories that were just too hard to believe, but they are true. And this next shocking story will not fail to disappoint. Imagine going to an ATM to withdraw some cash, only to be confronted by a masked robber wielding a kitchen knife. Now, imagine that robber turning out to be your own father. This is exactly what happened to a 17-year-old boy in Glasgow, Scotland. A 17-year-old teenager heads to a nearby ATM to withdraw some cash. Little did he know, this routine errand was about to take a dramatic turn. As the teenager completed his transaction and pocketed his card, he suddenly felt something cold and sharp against the left side of his face. It was a large kitchen knife. The masked robber demanded the cash, but the teenager quickly recognized the voice and eyes behind the mask. It was his own father. In a moment of disbelief, the teenager asked, "Are you serious? Do you know who this is?" The desperate robber responded that he didn't care. The teenager then pulled down the mask, revealing his father's face. Shocked and confused, he asked, "What are you doing?" His father, filled with regret, replied, "I'm sorry, I'm desperate." Both the son and the father fled the scene. The boy went straight to his grandmother's house. Just imagine the conversation he had with Grandma. "A man with a knife just tried to rob me and you won't believe who it was. It was Dad." Just picture the grandmother's face upon hearing this. Her son just tried to rob his own son. They then called the police, and the father was later arrested at his home. Initially, he denied everything, but eventually, he admitted to the crime, saying, "I didn't know it was him at the cash machine. I did it, and I am willing to do the time for this crime." It's rather ironic that the father was in this desperate financial state while his son is at the bank withdrawing some cash. It's quite possible that substance abuse was the reason for the father's situation. The father pleaded guilty to attempting to rob his son and possessing a knife in a public place. He was sentenced to 26 months in jail. But his punishment didn't end there. His actions left his family, that included his mother, brother, and son, extremely angry and disappointed. This story serves as a stark reminder of the lengths to which desperation can drive some people. And in this case, it may have even damaged the family's relationship for life. This story takes us to Italy, where one 80-year-old driver's passion for travel has landed him in a lot of legal trouble. Meet Mario, an 80-year-old man known as Grandad Sprint. Highway authorities in Italy are not amused by the antics of this retirement home resident. It seems that he loves traveling, but he hates paying tolls. Grandad Sprint is accused of dodging more than $4,300 in highway toll fees. He did this by tailgating other drivers through travel lanes that are reserved for people with a prepaid telepass. At entrances and exits to the system, he managed to get his Fiat Punto through the gates by following behind other cars before the barrier came down. Mario started his late-night drives to escape the boredom of his retirement home. He said he started driving around the country at night after other residents at the home fell asleep. He told reporters, "I get excited in front of the Colosseum, in front of the Royal Palace of Caserta, in front of the Royal Palace of Naples. Travel is my passion. I couldn't stay inside for an entire day." Authorities say he traveled for free on the country's highway system for 2 years. He was eventually caught by workers from the Italian motorway system known as Autostrade. First they identified his Fiat Punto. They then traced it to Mario after piecing together footage from surveillance cameras located at each of the gates he drove through. He could face a trial on fraud charges if he doesn't cough up the unpaid tolls. But Mario said that he's not a wealthy man. His entire pension goes into the retirement home, and his 2 children also contribute. He said his main reason for not paying is that he doesn't feel the highway system is worth the price based on the poor service they provide. Of course, none of this justifies not paying the toll fares. Thus, he risks going to trial on fraud charges unless he pays the $4,300 he owes. But at the time of the story, he was still refusing to do so. He reportedly told his lawyer, "I'm not paying. The motorway is a public service, they can't charge a toll. Not to mention that the rates are too high for the service offered." That's an interesting attitude. And this is the same guy who just said he couldn't manage to stay inside for an entire day. Well, Mario, sounds like you're about to be stuck inside a jail for much longer than that. Two men posted a video on social media showing one of them eating pickled ginger with his chopsticks. The problem is, he was eating directly from a communal container at a famous beef bowl restaurant chain in Japan. This popular prank has hit a number of sushi chains and became known as sushi terrorism. In the video, one of the men is seen holding a condiment container up to his face. He then starts shoveling pickled ginger into his mouth with his chopsticks. Customers are supposed to use an attached serving utensil to add ginger to their food. He later told police that he wanted to make people laugh and had nothing against the restaurant. The men said they wanted to do something funny and wanted people to see it. The restaurant was not even aware of the prank until a customer notified the chain about the video. This prompted the restaurant to temporarily close and to discard all its ginger and clean its containers. They then reported the video to police. The two pranksters, ages 35 and 34, were arrested. They are now facing up to 3 years in prison. In addition, they could pay up to $3,800 for property destruction and a fine of up to $2,280 for obstructing business. At another sushi restaurant, two men, ages 21 and 19, and a 15-year-old girl, were caught after wiping saliva on plates of fish, drinking out of community cups of soy sauce, and spraying hand sanitizer in food as dishes rolled past on conveyor belts. These crimes have become fairly common at sushi chains. Here is how one news outlet in Japan described it.
In Japan, there are many restaurant chains that allow customers to help themselves with seasoning, cups, utensils on or by each table. They are called kaiten sushi or conveyor belt sushi. The main reasons to cut costs, and also because shop owners traditionally believed the Japanese are disciplined enough not to do anything unhygienic. But there have been cases of bad manners coming to light on social media, such as spitting on sushi and then returning them to conveyor belts for other customers to pick up, and licking utensils and cups that the next customers may use. Those involved have come forward to apologize, but restaurants are seeking compensation. Analysts say minors who cannot be arrested should bear the cost too to pay huge compensation for damages. And if they cannot, then their parents will have to do so. That's because the reputation of conveyor belt sushi outlets have been damaged after such incidents. Even as they're now working hard to convince customers that dining with them is safe.
When you look at these beautiful sushi trays, it's sad to think that someone would willfully do something like this. Perhaps it's time to start making your own sushi at home.